Hi, guys. Welcome to this week's episode of the Microsoft Pulse. It's myself, Tom, and Tamara today. Jen's having internet problems probably down in Florida, with Florida Man and everything. So it's just going to be the three of us flying today and covering the roadmap updates. It's not going to be an overly long show, but we wanted to kind of cover the new stuff that's coming out, talk about the things that we think are kind of cool. And as always, we're going to be going through the 3 or 4 major areas in development, rolling out, launched, and then if there's anything canceled. So we're going to start right at the top with in development, which, as a reminder, in development means it's typically just been added to the roadmap, or it's still in the early stages where Microsoft's putting dev time. So they're comfortable enough to announce, yes, we're doing this, but it's not even gotten to the point that it's rolling out to any users yet. So let's go ahead and give it a start off. And Tamara, is there anything you'd like to cover that's in development?
Sure. Microsoft Teams, themes and icon updates. So they're updating the Teams default and dark theme background colors and the icon set to align with the overall Microsoft 360 design vision. So if you have any pictures in your documentation for how to do things and your users have to have everything matchy or they panic, this means that you're going to have to go in and update all of those photographs, or if you've made videos, you're going to have to go in and update those videos if you want them to all be matchy. So my mom, I bought her a new washer. I know that sounds like a stupid gift, but I bought her a new washer and she comes in, she sees it, she's
Gifts
like,
that are like
lovely.
viable for use are completely legitimate. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, this is lovely. Oh, the dryer doesn't match. So then I had to go buy the dryer.
Yeah, hint.
Exactly.
I don't think
Also
I've ever
with
had a dryer and washer that matched.
Also with Microsoft Teams, there's an updated layout for meetings in the iOS. So they're improving the team experience on the iOS devices with a new presentation mode and the ability to see more participants and the ability to see shared content and spotlighted participants concurrently. And then they're doing the same for Android with Teams. And then polls in Teams meetings. So polls for Teams meetings is easily discoverable and seamless experience that will help you conduct more engaging and productive meetings. With polls, which is powered by forms, the meeting presenters can prepare, launch, and evaluate polls before, during, and after the meeting, respectively, all from one place under a tab in the Teams meeting. And then Microsoft Teams meet now from Outlook. So this is getting a little crossover action. You can now start not now, but in December, you can start an instant Teams meeting from the calendar tab in the Outlook windows.
Yeah, so basically go from the Outlook client, you can be like, it's time for us, you can basically just launch a meeting with everyone, which is cool.
Nice.
Exactly.
It basically just takes a step away, right?
Yep. Then the last thing with Teams is manage your meeting options in the meeting. So meeting organizers can now view and update the meeting options within the in-meeting, making it easier and faster to manage your meeting options during the meeting.
Yeah, I think they're including it like in the pop-out screen. If you have a meeting pop-out screen, you got all the options in there now. So that's cool.
So outside of Teams, the vast majority of updates actually fall into Outlook of a couple different times. So, Tom, you want to kind of give a rundown of all the various Outlook-y things happening?
Sure. Deep breath, put your seatbelts on. Here we go. What Tom's known for here. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I'm doing are all for Outlook for Windows, and they're all related to the search box. So when you're in the search box, one of them is suggested calendar events. So when you start clicking in there, it's going to actually suggest calendar entries there as optional results before you enter a specific query. So it's just trying to anticipate about what you might want to see instead of waiting for you to type something in. It may match, it may not, but with machine learning, it usually gets better over time. So that's a good thing. Same type of thing, but it will also show attachments from emails that will be suggested as options before you enter a specific entry. Continuing on in the same theme, searching for a specific I've got the same thing you did, Tamara. I can't speak.
Mhm.
File, person, company topic, or event. Outlook will provide an actionable answer across people, files, events, and websites across your organization so you can quickly get to the information you're looking for. So now it's doing a little bit more of I'm taking a look at what you've typed in, and I'm going to try to give you an answer that's applicable, not something that matches a specific combination of words. So that's nice. And then suggested files. When you click into the search box, recent and relevant files will be suggested as an optional results before you enter a query. Tamara likes that one. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, on top of all those things, use the language you use every day to quickly filter and narrow your search results. So they're now making more of an effort to go into a natural language search in Outlook. Those are all Outlook for Windows. If you're using Outlook for the web like I do, just hang on because I'm going to scroll down a little bit here because there's more. Outlook Outlook on the web. Text predictions in English are now supported worldwide. Apparently this was only, targeted for a smaller group of people for English. Now you can go English across the world. So if that's something that you have to deal with, you'll be able to get those. Hold on, I'm still clicking down because I know there's more down here. Outlook for Windows Editor, based on Microsoft Intelligent Technology. Editor in Outlook will help with checking your spelling, identifying optional grammar corrections, and provide writing style suggestions while composing or replying to emails. So it sounds like this is very similar to some of the stuff they're doing in Word. And given that a lot of your Outlook emails were formatted in Word back in the day, there's probably some crossover there, but you're going to start being able to get a lot more of grammatical and spelling help, formatting help, so you get emails that look really nice rather than just slapped together if writing is not your, forte. Outlook for Windows, make all meetings online by default. Yay! So now you can set it to where whenever you make a new meeting, it's going to be online. And given COVID and the fact that it ain't going away anytime soon, that's going to be a really helpful thing. No, so you've got a mobile device. What does Outlook have for mobile devices, Tom? Well, thank you for asking. Outlook for iOS, show weather and calendar. So now in your iOS Outlook client, you can show weather, which I actually show that on my web-based client because it's just kind of nice to see what's going on. You also have favorites for additional customers. This is a GCC High DoD and GCC feature. Government community cloud customers with moderate and high security requirements and DoD will be able to tag people, folders, and groups as favorites. These customers will be able to have the option to set their email notifications based on their preference, including only from their favorite people. So that's kind of nice that you can start to weed out some of the cruff that keeps coming at you all day long. That's for iOS. It's also available for Android. So again, GCC, GCC High, and DoD. I think that is it for the in development stuff for Outlook. Yes, Adam, it's all yours now.
Just a couple quick things. There was kind of actually what I thought was a pretty cool notification type thing that they're doing in the new admin center. So again, keep in mind this is in development, so it isn't out yet. But you'll basically be able to more or less subscribe into email notifications for a specific incident or advisory. I thought this is cool because the couple times I've tried to be subscribed to notifications from Office 365, there's just way too many incidents that are not really incidents that you don't care about that you get emailed. So very quickly everything gets lost in the noise. What this is going to allow you to do is say for instance a month ago we all had that impact where Azure AD was acting weird with authentication, right? And I'm sure a lot of people were impacted by that. You could actually go in and find that advisory in the notification center for the service health page and subscribe to just that advisory. And then while that advisory is going on, you get email notifications and updates. So especially for
That's
the
nice.
IT admins of this or the business leaders that want to keep their company informed or their stakeholders informed, I see this as actually a really cool thing. And to basically, okay, this is actually impacting me. I want to subscribe to it. I want to be notified when new information comes out. A pro tip from the three of us: we highly recommend the Office 365 status Twitter account. That is actually even more active than what they post in the actual admin center and health updates and stuff. So if you guys have Twitter at all, I'd recommend checking that out. Anytime an
What's the
incident is
account?
actually going out, it's I think it's 0365 status, like at
Yes.
0365 status. But honestly, you can get better, more up-to-date updates from that than you can almost anywhere else. So independent of this feature, which we think is cool, check that one out. Two other things I'll mention just briefly. They also now have going on, they mentioned there's going to be a new simplified view of the Office 365 Admin Center for very small businesses. So if you have business licenses, not enterprise licenses, and you have less than 10 users, they're giving you a simplified view. This makes sense. I don't know what the simplified view is going to be, but chances are if you are a business with less than 10 users, you probably don't really have an IT person heading up your admin center. It's probably the business owner that doesn't really know what they're doing. So having a simplified view, I can get behind that. Like just me being an Exchange admin sometimes, like, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff in the Exchange admin center to go through and look at. So having a simplified version for people that aren't IT people is probably something that's good. And the final thing I'll mention, this makes sense to me in practice, but I'll be interested to see how this rolls out. They did an update for OneDrive where they'll allow you to basically edit files that you've taken offline. So in OneDrive, you have the option to basically almost kind of like, oh, I want to go and use this file for offline use. Say you're going to be on an airplane and you don't want to pay for Wi-Fi, or say like, or you're going to be somewhere that you just don't have a connection for a bit. They're basically going to set it up where you can still go in and edit the file and work with it. I'll be interested to see how conflict resolution works with that. I'm sure they have a process built out for it, but what happens if I go and get a coffee and the Wi-Fi is down at Starbucks, so I work on the file offline, and when I come back, my partner Tom has been working on it too. How does it decide where those conflicts go through? So I'm interested to see that. It doesn't explain what that's going to be, but just know if you go through periods of time where you're offline, they're basically trying to develop a new system, make it easier for you to edit the files. Anything else you guys want to mention about in development?
I just wanted to mention that whole thing of taking files offline, we were doing that in Lotus Notes back in the days in the late 90s.
Well, the reason I was interested in conflict resolution, I actually had an incident. So me and one of my colleagues were working to try to get RFP done for a customer, and this was a very large RFP. So literally, there were several mornings that I got up at like 4 a.m. because the guy's just as busy as I am. So like we couldn't find time during the day to work on it. And a couple times, like we were both typing into the document and they got out of sync. And it was like, well, I could either put my updates up or like erase what he's done. And it was just annoying to deal with. So again, like I'll be interested to see where that goes. But
Sounds good.
so moving on to rolling out, we'll go ahead and Tamara, you can go ahead and give us a start again if there's anything you'd like to talk about.
Fabulous. Fabulous. I'll leave the Outlook theme for Mr. Duff. So
Thank you.
Microsoft lists the calendar view built on SharePoint. Visualize any list with items that use a date column information in a calendar view. This is in rolling out. I have to say I'm a little disappointed in that we used to have this in SharePoint and then they took it away. And now it's coming back and they want us to get all excited about it coming back. I'm still bitter about it going away. Teams turn off text previews for chat notifications, and this just gives you some more privacy around what you're chatting about. And then custom meeting images. Admins will now be able to add customer logo to the Teams experience for display in the lobby in the pre-join experience. I think this is great, especially if you have external users coming in. It kind of confirms that they're in the right place. The logo will be displayed for meetings where the organizer has the advanced comms SKU. So you will need a license for that. And then also in Microsoft Teams, meeting recordings saved to OneDrive and SharePoint. We've talked about this quite a bit. It's now rolling out come November. So next week you should start seeing it. And that should be worldwide. Let's take a look here. I think there was one more thing. There's the SharePoint organization chart web part. And this web part allows page authors to generate an organization chart based off of an individual. The page author will have the option to determine how many levels up this org chart goes. This is only going to work well if your Active Directory is up to date. And I've never worked in a company where the Active Directory is up to date. So your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I'm
So, and
actually
that's
looking
about
forward
all I
to that.
have.
Yeah, because we have a lot of people who are like, oh, we have to post an org chart, and they've got PDF files and all these other things.
Mhm.
And I'm really hoping this gives the basic, here are the people in our organization, and just something that's very simple that they can get rid of all the PDF files and posting them, and they make them different names and they have to update the links. They're like, how come I lost it? I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it. Go away.
Well, you have to update the manager field in Active Directory for this to work. And one of the problems that we ran into in the city of Minneapolis is some people have multiple managers.
Mm,
And there's just no way to do that in Active Directory. It's a one-to-one relationship.
Right. In our organization, we're pretty good about that. So I think this may work really well for us, but we'll see. And also, when you're talking about the message preview, being able to turn that off in the notifications, that actually showed up in our tenant here. And so I did a 1minuteofficemagic.com tip on that one today, and it works really cool. I'm thinking I may turn it on for a regular basis because it's really awkward when you're sharing your screen with somebody and the thing pops up that says, are you talking to that idiot again? I'm like, well, that was awkward. Okay. Where instead of just having something that says, you just got a message, that's all I need to know at that point.
Mhm.
So anyway, for some of the stuff that she did not cover and isn't Microsoft Edge version 87 related, because there's a ton of those things, Outlook for Android, two-way synchronization with local calendars. So if you've got Android, you've got a local calendar, you're going to be able to do the synchronization now. So events created in the local other calendar app can be viewed and edited from within Outlook, so on and so forth. So that's something to look forward to if you're an Android user. You covered the Microsoft List calendar view, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm still bitter about it for anyone playing.
Okay, that was the bitter one. Yes. Okay, I will move
Yes.
on quickly. This one has not hit our client yet, but I'm keep looking for it every day. SharePoint new list or new create list experience. So when you go out to create a new list, they're actually, and this kind of is predicated on you having probably Microsoft lists as a product hitting your tenant. But you're now going to see this new experience, and you'll see the ability to do like templates and just a refresh screen instead of the one that we've all seen from like SharePoint 2010 on. So keep an eye open for that. If you go to create a new list and it looks different, yeah, it's rolling out and should be in your client soon. Recording saved. Outlook Find Time require attendee verification and locking poll for attendees. I don't know how much people would need this, but basically, if you're using Find Time,
like was impersonating people to vote on Find Time meetings like a real problem that had to be addressed?
yeah, I'm sitting here looking. It's like, what is a realistic use case for this? And I came up dry. I'm sorry. Not saying they're not out there. I just didn't think of it. But basically, if you have people who you're sending these Find Time polls to, you'll be able to say, hey, you need to authenticate who you are before you respond to this. So yeah, no more voting early, voting often, I guess, and voting with dead people. I guess that pretty much rules
Yeah,
that out.
like I've read this and I saw like a cartoon like overly exaggerated criminal like sneaking in to like type on someone's computer to like choose a meeting time that didn't work for them.
You're going to have a 2 p.m. meeting, blah.
Yeah. Like the big evil mustache type of a thing.
Exactly, Snidely Whiplash thing going on here. That's pretty much it from the product side. A lot of the other stuff is Microsoft Edge related, so I will either cover those or just go and just go buy those.
Yeah, no, I mean, I to that point, if you're a big Edge user, there's multiple updates coming out. All the updates are fairly specific with it. It's stuff that like If you use the single sign-on incorporated with Microsoft Edge, you can go do it and have your Azure AD account sync up with it. Or there's a new version of an enterprise new tab page, like stuff that's like pretty specific features. So we're not going to dig into all of that. The only real thing outside of that I thought it was worth mentioning, there's surprisingly a couple things related to quarantine. We've mentioned a few of them before when they were listed in the in development phase, but just kind of keep everyone up to date. So two things. One, they're now going to actually move quarantine to its own section. Right now, if you wanted to go in and set a policy for how to handle messages, if you wanted to quarantine them, if you wanted to just move them straight to junk, if you wanted the quarantine to be admin only, did you want notifications to come out? All of that was built into the default spam filtering settings that you went in and placed. So it was like a subsection of the spam filtering settings that you had to go in and set. It's now just getting its own quarantine policy section, so you can manage that separately, which can be nice. It could make it easier for companies that maybe have one way they want to handle quarantines, but they want different spam filter settings for their users. The other thing, I thought this was kind of cool. One of the lacking things with quarantine right now is there's not really a lot of information given to end users about what's going on there. Typically, the messages are just quarantined and put in on the back end for the admin to go in and do it. I know I can speak for my time. If I'm ever like expecting a meeting from someone and I don't get it, I have to basically reach out to my admin and be like, hey, I was told I'd be getting this message. It didn't come in. Can you go on and take a look at anything? Where they're basically going to create a thing where end users have the ability to go in and view quarantine messages. It specifically talks about this in the context of phishing messages that might be false positives, but gives you the ability to go in and look at quarantine messages and basically request to your admin to release them. So you can go in there and look and say, okay, I have some messages that were quarantined. This is actually a legitimate message I need. Mr. Admin, can I please have my message? Which is kind of cool. It makes it so you don't have to go in and like I said, like proactively reach out to your admin, which always gets confusing. And the last thing, they're adding some customizations for the quarantine messages that go out, where companies can add company branding and things like that. And again, keep in mind, this is all in rolling out. This is stuff that either is coming out right now or will be out very shortly to you. Anyone have anything else in rolling out they want to cover?
I'm good.
No.
All right, so moving to the last section, or what's going to be the second to last section, because we still have canceled. It's launch. This is stuff that should be live for, I shouldn't say all tenants. A lot of them are all tenants, but sometimes not GCCI. But regardless, the feature has now reached production and it's out there. So we'll go ahead and start with Tom this time to mix it up a little bit.
Oh, great. You're going to create dissension in the household once we hang up here. Thanks a lot. When I said I was going to take all the Outlook stuff, I forgot there is a ton of stuff for Outlook again still in launch. So here we go again, folks. But in reality, since we have probably talked about this a number of times since it's been launched, we probably talked about it in dev, we've talked about it rolling out. I'm going to go real high level, except for this first one. And that is Outlook on the Web, Project Mocha, MOCA preview, worldwide multi-tenant. This is a Project Mocha thing that they're trying out. They said it's a new way to organize items such as emails, tasks, links, files in a visual way. Items are synced across Microsoft 365. When I looked at it really briefly, it almost looked like here's a whiteboard where you can pull over certain inbox items and certain files and certain this, certain that may all be related to a specific project or something. I'm curious to see how this will work in reality, whether this actually sticks or that was a great idea and yeah, it went nowhere. It is in launch now, which means it's in a generally available preview state, so you can turn it on in your tenant and start playing around with it. But again, you may just want to, turn it on, take a quick look to make sure it's not going to blow everything up if you do that, and then give some information to your staff about what this is, and then let them go ahead and try things out. Of all the other Outlook things, so Outlook for Android, create group calendar events. You can now do that. Outlook for Android, update search experience on larger screens. Yep, that's now going to be possible if you have a larger device. Outlook for Android, support for POP3 accounts. Those still exist. Outlook for iOS, accept a new proposed time to meet. That's really good that you can now do that from a mobile client in Outlook. On top of accepting a new proposed time, They're also giving you the ability to propose a new time, which is nice because you'll need to do both of them sometimes. Outlook for Android RSVP from email notifications. Again, if you're on the road and you need to do the kind of things you do when you're sitting in front of your desk, one of them is RSVP for something that you need to attend. You can now do that from your Android device. You can also see the location and meeting times for RSVPing in Android. Outlook for iOS, location information and calendar notifications, so that's included. And moving messages to suggested folders effortlessly, easy for them to write, not for me to say.
Effortlessly.
Effortlessly, let's move emails from folders to using Outlook folder suggestions. So that's now going to be available in iOS. One other thing. Oh no, I'm not going to touch those because Tamara didn't go yet. I'm a smart man. I'm not going to touch anything other than
Tom.
Breaks.
Happy spouse, happy house.
You make it sound like I beat you or something. I don't beat Tom, people.
There is a picture.
Tom's not naturally bald. That's the punishment that Tamara dishes out that slowly takes his hair away.
I do shave his head.
I must say, though, this morning, as we're getting ready and everything, she kissed me with lipstick right on top of the head. So I had a really nice lip kiss thing right there. And she goes, you need to look at that in the mirror. I said, okay, I did. And I was like, oh, that is so getting posted. And I am really tempted to leave it there. So anyway, go,
All right. Moving on to things that actually matter. Microsoft Teams priority notification in the Gov Cloud. So this is for DoD, GCC High, and GCC. Share urgent messages and time-sensitive information more effectively with Teams. Priority notifications alert a recipient of an urgent message on their mobile and desktop device until the response is received. Every 2 minutes for up to 20 minutes. This is the most annoying feature in Teams ever. Use your power only for good. Seriously. Do not cross the streams.
I remember when they launched this for commercial. This is like, really? Like, do we have to?
Don't be that person that makes everything urgent. Just don't be that person.
If everything is urgent, nothing is urgent.
Exactly. And Microsoft Teams live captions with speaker attribution is launched come October. So you should start seeing that in your tenant today. Teams already provides live captions as a way to follow along with what's being said in the meeting. And we're also adding speaker attribution so captions will specify who is speaking. I think that's really neat, especially if people are in a meeting and they don't announce who they are before they start speaking. I think that's really, really useful. The speaker,
and it works really well too. I've seen it in action. It's kind of cool.
Great. So Teams updated functionality for downloading participant reports in team meetings before you had to actually do the download during the meeting. And if you forgot, that was just too bad. So meeting organizers, especially teachers and event organizers, often need to know who joined the meeting and how many people joined their Teams meeting. And with this new enhancement, it'll allow you to download the report after the meeting within the meeting chat. So they've also added new data into the report that allows you to better manage your attendance. Be aware that this attendance report shows when each person joins and each person leaves. And if they've joined and left multiple times, they're going to be in there multiple times. So this is a report that you have to do some massaging with to get an accurate count of how many people have actually attended. So, and it's not real easy to do. There's a lot of deduping, and then you also have to count the blank spaces because that's what anonymous users show up as. So it is a report. Is it a useful report? With a lot of work, yes. So, and then Microsoft Teams manage your meeting options in meetings. We talked about this in development. That was for GCC, GCC High, and DoD, but it's launching this October for the worldwide tenants and the education tenants. So it's in development for GCC, GCC High, and DoD, but it's for everybody else. Also in Microsoft Teams, meeting transfers on companion devices. So let's say you're at your desk and the meeting's running along and you need to get going home, you can transfer it to your phone and walk to your car and get ready to go and still be in the meeting. I don't recommend that you drive while you're in a meeting.
It's a cool feature. I actually did 1 minute office magic tip on that one last week, I think, and it's completely seamless. It is really cool.
Nice. And then the last thing, there's changes in incoming IP video policy. So Microsoft is updating the meeting policies to allow IT administrators more control over how video is managed in team meetings. The current policy can only be set to prevent outgoing video. And Microsoft is extending the allow IP video policy to prevent both outgoing and incoming video as needed. This is going to be especially important for those people who don't have a good bandwidth or are in restricted environments where there's top secret information and they want to make sure that nothing is caught on camera that shouldn't be.
Very cool.
So I have a couple things, but I'll go moderately quick. Some things that we've 1,000% talked about before just now reaching launch. So stuff like security report export options through ATP and some of the things like that. But a couple ones that I thought were neat that I wanted to talk about. One of them I've definitely seen myself in real time. Reverse number lookup enhancements is what they're calling it. If you use Teams Voice and you actually have a phone number that you can go through and call people, they basically are making it so that the telco display name will show up in your activity feed, in your call history, and voicemail. I've actually noticed this. I've been calling my parents randomly and stuff like that because I have work going on with a contractor in my house, like giving them updates. My dad's kind of in the same business, so asking him questions and stuff like that. And I noticed over the last couple of weeks on mine, what used to just be a lot of numbers listed now have my parents' names, even though they're not on Microsoft and stuff. So cool to see it coming through. You definitely, I imagine that's something most people will realize. Where in the same way caller ID works, just they're doing a better job of pulling in the telco display name of whose number it is. The other two things that I wanted to mention, one of them is super important. So I'll start with the one that's cool but not as important. Auto apply retention labels to team meetings recordings. Interestingly enough, this is only for normal office stuff right now. When this eventually makes it to the GCC and GCCI, I know a lot of my customers will be really excited. But say you have a retention label, or you have hey, I have important information, so therefore I need to be on top of this stuff. You now have the ability to auto apply those labels to certain teams recordings. And so say we wanted to, auto apply a label of pulse recordings to every meeting that we did with this or every meeting that was created off of that, we could basically set up a thing that would automatically do it for us, which is cool. And then the one that's super important, I think we can all agree on, if you use Planner on mobile, it's getting dark mode. So get excited.
Yay! You played that so well, Adam.
Thanks. I figured you guys would share the excitement of dark mode with me. So I'm just going to briefly mention we had two canceled things. One of them is a feature that's been postponed. If you did hybrid exchange, the ability to auto map full access mailboxes between the two environments, you can do permissions between the two environments, but the idea of it auto mapping and automatically showing up in the user's mailbox, that's just been postponed until later. And then the other one was a block sending to groups on BCC line. This is kind of funny. It goes through the idea of being able to send to messages and if what happens to NDRs. It's basically just a duplicate, so it got pulled off the roadmap. So it's not going anywhere. It's just somewhere else on the roadmap. So, excuse me. Outside of that, anything, guys?
Nope.
No, I think we totally covered it.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us for the Pulse, guys. I'm sure Jen will probably be back with us next week. And outside of that, we appreciate you guys. It's been cold the last week in a lot of parts of the U.S., so Stay warm. Election is officially next week. Go out and get your voting done. We don't care who you're voting for, but get voted. And good luck to good luck to everyone, and I'm sure the drama and chaos that's going to ensue over the next couple weeks.
That sounds great.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.